People often come to see me because they want to get healthy. They want to live a life where they feel vibrant and alive. And one of the questions that I always ask people is, what do you want to do with your health? So if you're not healthy right now and you feel limited, what do you think you're going to get out of becoming healthy? How is your life going to be different? And we have a group that we're working with right now. It's a small, beautiful group, and we are all focused on gut healing, hormone balancing, and nervous system alignment so that we can all live in our bodies with ease. And one of the women in the group said that I'm doing this because I don't want to feel like I'm a burden on anyone. And, for people that have experienced that kind of thing in their life, it hit home and you could feel what that was about. So what I want to offer here is how to get super clear on what you actually want your health for. And this doesn't have to be for health goals. You can apply this to any goals in your life. But I'll give you an example and a 3-step process to how to go through this so that it makes it easier to accomplish what you really want in your life. So if you haven't met me before, I'm Dr. Leah. I'm a former family physician who gave up prescribing pills and got curious about life's intelligence, the innate ability for the body to heal, and just using natural resources, coming back to nature because that's what we are. So let's get started. So in this, we're going to be looking at how to really get clear on what you want your health for. The first step is to actually make a list of all the things that you don't want. And when people come up with these lists, that's kind of the first thing that happens. So like the example I gave you in the beginning is, I don't want to be a burden for anybody. And so the first step is finding what is the opposite of that. So when we asked this one woman, it was not to be a burden. So being not dependent on someone, not having to depend on anyone. And so when we flip that, we can look at it on the positive spectrum as wanting to be independent. And so the reason we do this like positive, negative, and it's not about being good or bad, but more so about the duality that exists in life. And sometimes it's really about getting clear on one spectrum because it's very easy to list off the things that you don't want. Oftentimes people have a harder time identifying what it is they do want. And by having a clear distinction between the two, it makes it much easier. So once you have your list of no's, we're going to flip it to the positives. And why is this done? The reason being is all of these negative forms have the word no, don't, or not. And now for the mind, but also for the universal principle, if you're using these as affirmations, these 3 words don't exist. They kind of cancel out. And so then you're asking for the things that you actually don't want. So make that list of the no's and then transfer it over to the opposites of what the positives would be. And that will give you more clarity on what it is that you are after. Now, the second step in this process is getting curious. So this is the part that most people feel a little bit uncomfortable with. But essentially what you're going to be doing is exploring why is it that you don't want something. So we'll keep using this example throughout this video about the not wanting to be dependent or not wanting to be a burden on someone. So for a lot of us who have experienced someone's ill health before us, so maybe it was our parents or our grandparents, or maybe even just being in the healthcare industry or in the system, and you've seen what it looks like to be dependent on someone. And maybe that didn't look pretty to you. Maybe that held an image of something that felt very uncomfortable. Now, this getting curious, this questioning is so important because if we don't look at these seeds that have been planted, of these little emotional seeds that have been planted, they have to come up at some point to be faced. And so by addressing them now, you can kind of help them come to the surface and help them be realized that this is just a little point of fear that is living within us. And so when we get clear on that, when we actually face it, when we look at it, it starts to become less sticky. It starts to become less rooted. And so it's not out there looking for resolution all the time. It's starting to come to the surface. So by getting clear on this, we get rid of all of those kind of attachments, the deeper resistance, so that it doesn't pop up and, face us later on. So that's step 2. So getting curious. Now, step 3 is being very specific about the positive list that we made. So you went from the negative list, you made the positive list. Now look at those specifics. So, one of those examples is, again, going back to not wanting to be dependent or not wanting to be a burden on someone. And so the opposite looks like wanting to be independent. So when you say you want to be independent, if you just say it like that, can you actually be clear on what that feels like, what it looks like? Not really. That could be different for anybody, right? So if that's one of your desires, then be clear on what that independence looks like. Maybe that means instead of being in a wheelchair, so not wanting to be in a wheelchair, being able to walk on your own without any crutch, without any assistance, on your own independently. It might even mean being able to drive your car for as long as possible. It might mean not having to wear glasses until as long as possible, as far as you can prevent it. So living a life as long as possible, fully independent, can look like these different things. So getting very clear on what that is, what that image is for you. And the reason you go through this little exercise and start looking at, like, yeah, I want that. Like, I want that independence that looks like this. Because once you can imagine it, then you have a little video that you can play for yourself in the morning, in the evening before you go to bed. And that visual helps create your life. And so now when you have little things that you have to do for your lifestyle to keep healthy, it doesn't feel as much as a chore because it's part of living that life for that vision that you've created. So I hope that that helps make that 3-step clear, and we'll just review it really quickly. So the first is getting that list of duality. You make your negatives and your positives. The second is getting curious on why you don't want those negatives. Okay. And the third is making a very specific list of all the positives, really making it so you can visualize what that life would look like, because this is going to make living it much easier. So thanks for spending a few minutes watching this video. As a little bonus, I've included a walkthrough handout so that you can actually do this on your own, on paper, and get really clear on what you want your health for. I'll see you next time.